Okay, we got to get going. Thank you. Welcome to the Jeremiah Gunn Show. Thank you. This is CSN, the Common Sense Network. This program's dedicated to Charlie Kirk, the prophet, Charlie Kirk, our national treasure, our patron saint of America, of the blessed founders, and the greatest civilization in the history of common sense, in the history of woman. So, let's get started. First, our international anthem. This goes out to all of you living in the Gulf of America and soon to be Greenland. We're talking about national treasures. That's from the album True Genius. And he saw his house one day on a tour of St. Augustine. They pointed to, not his house, but the place where he grew up. There was a school for the blind and deaf, if those are the right terms for it today. But that was pretty cool. What a talent. What a brilliant, good man. Anyway. This is Professor Jeremiah Gunn coming to you in peace and love and truth. No justice, no peace, no truth, no love, no nothing. Yeah, I'm not a Navy SEAL, although some of them weren't either. We'll talk about that someday. I'm not a PhD Ivy League professor. I'm not a UFC fight promoter or a psychologist from Canada or a podcaster comedian from UK that by way of Russia that is a rising star. I'm an undocumented expert, which is really the best. It's really the best because you don't have to bow. You don't have to get your you get anointed by the seminaries of leftism that our universities have become. That's proof. I'm talking science here, but I'm an undocumented expert. That's the best kind, autodidact, like the guys on Mount Rushmore. And I'm a little bit about me. I'm a agnostic, secular Catholic member of the Catholic Church. I'm a member of the Church of Latter-day Saints. I'm a member. I'm a Jehovah's Witness. I'm a Jew. I'm an African American. I'm a science non-denier. I'm a science spewer. I'm spitting facts. You want a fact checker? Here it is. Here we are. We the people. Okay? We're going to talk about history, not hysteria, not her story. We're going to talk about history, not critical race, CRT. That meant something different back in the day, but we're not going to talk about revisionist nonsense like Ken Burns' new thing on the revolution. Lies. You know, these are, in times of universal deceit, telling the truth becomes a revolutionary act. That's what George Orwell said. There are memes and T-shirts that say, I literally wrote a book about all this stuff. But he said the first duty of intelligent men in times of universal deceit will be to simply tell the truth. Because the political speech is made to, he said it's made to make lies the truth and murder acceptable. So we've got a world to save here. My pronouns are e pluribus unum, liberty, and in God we trust. Okay. So where do we start? We left off on the Civil War. This is kind of Civil War Part 2. We talked about all the things we could talk about, and we will. We will get there eventually, but I'd like to know what's concerning you. What's the biggest concern you have? But now we're engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, this one, or any nation conceived like this, and this is the only one, can endure. That's existential. Can we exist? Lincoln predicted, he was a prophet. He said that if we lose this country, and that's where we are right now, it's an existential period. Both sides in the last election, so-called, both sides said this is an existential threat to our way of life, to our Constitution. The Constitution is our marriage license. Well, it's our birth certificate, it's our marriage license, it's our business contract, it's our prenup, it's our living. Well, it's not living. We'll dispel that myth, but it's our last will and testament. It was theirs to us. They gave us the covenant that covers our existence. So anyway, I think that I talk a little bit slowly. Some people say my voice is monotonous. Some say it's mellifluous. Some say it's soothing. The last career job I had, I was in charge of a department, and when I had to introduce myself to them, one of them said that I have of the voice of a soothing sage. Wow, that felt good. I have the voice of a soothing sage. Well, hopefully, I'm speaking to you in intelligence. Nothing artificial about it. I know what I'm talking about. I know everybody's angle, everybody's teaching. That's all I've done my whole life was study amateur sociologists and become an undocumented expert on all this stuff. So we're going to talk about everything, and I can tell you where they're right, where they're wrong, why they're right, why they're wrong. And so if you want sort of a cliff notes of someone you can trust, I got no dog in the fight. I was nothing. I only motivated by care for you, speaking the truth in love. That's why I'm doing this. I want to be dad help. I want to have your back. People are looking around for answers. Some aren't, and that's too bad. But if you're not a lotus eater and you're looking for answers, you're going to find them here. You're going to find them here. And all I'd ask is what the great Charlie Kirk said. Let's talk about prophets, not people. He just said, prove me wrong. That's all. That's not too much to ask. Prove me wrong. If you're right and I'm wrong, let's just come, let us reason together. A very, very, very high source said that at one time to a common man. Come, let us reason together. That's not too much to ask, is it? How about it? So tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what your concerns are. But let's get on to part 2. We got a nation to save. And by saving the nation, we save the world. And if you're a strap hanger that doesn't believe that or doesn't understand it or pretends to not, Greg Gutfeld talked about one night, we'll talk about it later, but he talked about performative ignorance, willfully. Think about the term ignorance and think about the term intelligence. Ignorance, I like that word because you can be an intellectual and be very ignorant because ignorant has as its root ignore. And so you willfully choose to ignore facts, and that's why you can say, well, that's why it says there's none so blind as he who will not see. Remember our bonus notes program. If you can let me know where that reference is found, You won a little prize. Very little. Anyway, let's pick up on the Civil War. So, a real quick outline. I'm trying. It's hard to make this quick, but basically, I was talking to somebody the other day who has a PhD, and he said, "Oh, they could have, the founders, they were great, but here comes the thing called presentism. But they had a golden opportunity to end slavery. No, they did not. No, they did not. The first political cartoon in this country was by Ben Franklin, the Elon Musk of his day. And he created this, he actually invented the political cartoon, and it showed a snake, 13 pieces, one for each colony, and it said, we either stick together or we die. When he was in the Independence Congress coming up with the Declaration of Independence, he said, we're all going to hang together or we're going to hang separately. That really was at risk. So anyway, they wanted to form this country, and they knew. So what happened when they started to talk about slavery? Some of them did. They started talking about slavery, and the Democrats got up and walked out. And so that's it. No country. They had to beg them to come back. So ultimately, cooler heads prevailed, unfortunately, for a portion of our population. Cooler heads prevailed, and they said, let's keep a country. Because what would have happened if they didn't get it together? Does anybody out there that knows anything about anything think that we would have had, I'm sorry if I didn't mention this, but if you want to speed this up, go ahead. I talked about my voice being monotonous, mellifluous. I don't want to put you to sleep. So I should have said this up front. An important safety note, I usually do. Speed it up. You can go on your phone or whatever you're listening on. And if you want it to put you to sleep, great. This is provided for your safety and convenience, and not while you're driving. But if you want to use it like white noise. But if I would only ask you to in the morning on the way back into work, hopefully, and if you wake up and go to work, that you'll just listen, okay? Whatever your work is. So go ahead and set it to 1.25, 1.5, whatever. I don't want to take your time unnecessarily. I just want you to, okay? So I got to get this down to one line or something, or I won't get a synopsis of it. So basically, they walked out, they had to come back, and they said, oh, all right, so we got to leave. This is about breaking free from England, not giving everybody everything we would love to give. So if anybody in their right mind that knows anything about anything looks at them with presentism and revisionism and says, they could have ended, it would have ended the country. It would have ended the country because you would have had a couple different little countries, 6 or 5, whatever states, colonies in each. And the French and the Spanish and the British and the Dutch and the Russians would have just carved us up. Probably not the Dutch, but anyway, they would have carved us up into non-entities, and we wouldn't be here. So, so they decided, let's not talk about that. But they did get some provision in there to end the slave trade, which was ended by white Republican Christians. That's another topic on another time. But so we went along, and there was a bunch of decisions that Democrats on the Supreme Court made. A bunch of decisions that came along, like I don't know, the Dred Scott decision, the Fugitive Slave Act. Okay, they said that probably the biggest one that the so-called Supreme Court blessed with their Democrat justices on it, even chief justices sometimes, like the one Lincoln had to deal with. And the presidents that were Democrats from the North. There were no Democrat presidents from the South. until Andrew Johnson. But anyway, they kept it going. They kept it going. And people say, even the Mexican-American War, well, Lincoln was against that, and so was Henry David Thoreau. Yeah, a lot of people were against it. Do you know why? You got to look stuff up sometimes. You can't just run around. You know, I think professors, by and large, are turkeys, but they think they're eagles. And Churchill said, when the eagles are silent, the parrots begin to jabber. So these guys walk around like that great comedian Jim Brewer calls them news cockatoos, or, the people from the education Ministry of Education propaganda. They say, they'll go around saying things like this was a that it was the North against the South, or whatever it was. It was, the Civil War was about states' rights and all that stuff. So they made a bunch of decisions that caused us to have slavery to just continue. Oh, sorry, Mexican-American War. That's right. That's where we're back. I'm back. So the Mexican-American War, Henry, he was against it. Do you know why Lincoln was against it? Because the Confederates, the Democrats, wanted to get each new state to have slavery. They wanted to go all the way to Tierra del Fuego. They wanted to take over why? Because they wanted more states, more representatives. How did they get more representatives? Most of the population in the South was black, slaves. And so they, but what did they do? They worked this little thing with their so-called peculiar institution. They worked out where they get they're 3/5 of a person, but they're not a person. I can buy them, sell them, breed them like cattle, breed with them, but they're not people. They're just 3/5 of a people, 0.6, so that you can get more representation. So they get counted in the census, kind of like the way they count illegal aliens in the census. They want to do that. They get more Democrats. Same thing, different day, same party, same slavery, same everything. Okay? You never heard this, but if you want to listen, those that have ears to hear and love the truth, those who are of the truth, hear my voice. Okay? So we're talking about truth. We're not talking about some revisionist fantasy that makes one party feel better at the expense of the rest of the people, including the slaves. There's a great book. It's a great book called Uncle Sam's Plantation, written by a black woman who was, I think, on crack and had abortions and welfare and all that kind of stuff, and got her act together and started a special charity ministry outreach to help people get their lives together. She wrote a book called Uncle Sam's Plantation. Absolutely. Yes, all day long. Okay, so they started the Civil War next. The next thing they did, they started the Civil War, and they, how did that happen? But before it started, there was skirmishes. There were things like Bleeding Kansas, and the Democrats where Democrats were coming in that believed in popular sovereignty, as Stephen Douglas called it. They wanted states' rights. That's why they called themselves Confederates, because they wanted to base it on the Articles of Confederation, which we tried and it didn't work, so we came up with a Constitution. But they said that one emphasized states' rights over one United States of America. So we got to do a whole thing on the Civil War because the things that led up to it and all that. But basically, Democrats started the Civil War, but it was in the South, right? That was in the South. It was
the South, right?
No, it was not. It was not a war over a map or a compass, because all the Democrats in the North. By the way, pop quiz: how many Democrat votes did Abraham Lincoln, the radical Republican Party, was born to get rid of slavery? Where did he get I mean, how many Democrat votes did he get? Anybody know? Anybody out there? Last call. 0. He got 0 votes. But, there were people in states that were for him. But what do they do about it? That's how we got West Virginia. So, thank God people of West Virginia broke away from Virginia because they said, we're not in this thing. We're not Democrats. We're Americans. We're United States. We're the United States. So they managed to keep the Civil War going for another 100 years. For another 100 years. Okay? And even today, the thing is, they want all of us to be slaves. They want all of us to be slaves. They talk about democracy, but it's the biggest racist party. The candidates they put forward are unfortunately, it hurts to say this, but they are House N-words. They're the Uncle Toms. They call Tim Scott Uncle Tim, but that's the Orwellian trick. They need to look in the mirror. Okay, so next time, thank you for listening. Thank you. I appreciate you. I care about you. I care about you. And you're losing your country. A great man said, look, he said, if you don't fight like hell, you're going to lose this nation. That was a prophet that said that. And we have to, or lose it. You're going to find out that that's exactly how it started. That's exactly how the Civil War was treated. And here we are. Till next time, thank you. Thank you for listening.